You've done this before. You walked into a room and within 30 seconds, you knew who was pretending, who was insecure, who was about to leave. No one told you, no one showed you, you just knew. And people call that intuition, but it's not magic. It's something far more complicated and far more expensive. Picture this. You're sitting across from someone smiling. They say they're fine, but their shoulders are tight. Their voice drops half a tone. They avoid one specific topic. Everyone else accepts the surface. You don't. Your mind starts connecting dots instantly. You're not trying to analyze them. It just happens. And 5 minutes later, they're confessing something they hadn't planned to share. That's the INFJ experience. But here's the part no one explains. What looks like psychic ability is predictive pattern recognition running at high speed. INFJs don't read minds, they read deviations, micro-expressions, inconsistencies between words and physiology. They track emotional rhythm the way musicians track tempo. Over time, your brain builds a database. Tone shift equals hesitation. Humor at the wrong moment equals deflection. Sudden politeness equals withdrawal. You're not guessing, you're modeling. And because you process internally and deeply, the model runs quietly. It feels like a knowing, but it's trained sensitivity plus constant subconscious comparison. That's the mechanism. Here's the problem. When you can predict people, it changes how you connect with them. Because understanding someone before they understand themselves creates distance, not closeness. People feel seen by you, but you rarely feel seen back. Why? Because you're scanning, observing, tracking. You're ahead of the emotional curve. By the time someone explains themselves, you already arrived there minutes ago. And surprise, the currency of intimacy, disappears. You become the stable one, the translator, the quiet counselor. But the more you understand others, the harder it becomes to relax inside the interaction. You're rarely just in the moment, you're mapping it. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. This ability didn't develop in a vacuum. It developed because at some point, predicting people became necessary. Children who become hyper-attuned adults usually learned one thing early. Emotional unpredictability isn't safe, so your nervous system adapted. It learned to monitor tone, energy, subtle shifts, not for curiosity, for stability. If you could sense conflict early, you could prepare. If you could anticipate rejection, you could soften it. If you could feel someone pulling away before they said it, you wouldn't be blindsided. This is why INFJs are often described as old souls, not because they're mystical, because they learned to study human behavior early and deeply. But here's the cost. Hyper-attunement doesn't switch off easily. Most people experience social exhaustion from talking. INFJs experience it from monitoring. You're not tired because you interacted. You're tired because your system ran diagnostics the entire time. And underneath that exhaustion is something quieter, loneliness. Not because people don't care, but because very few people read you back. You're transparent to yourself, but opaque to others. And when someone misreads you, you often let it slide, because correcting them feels heavier than staying misunderstood. That's the invisible wall. Not arrogance, not superiority, just asymmetry. You understand more than you're understood. Here's where this becomes existential. If you always see people's potential, you start relating to who they could be, not who they are. You hold space for growth, but sometimes at the cost of acceptance. And when people don't evolve the way your internal model predicted, disappointment hits hard. That's where the INFJ door slam really comes from. Not impulsive coldness, but a long internal audit. Once the data confirms misalignment, your system withdraws investment. Clinical, decisive, energy conserved. Because emotional energy is finite. So no, you're not psychic, and no, you're not too intense. You developed high-resolution emotional perception, and it gives you leverage, but also burden. The goal isn't to turn it off, it's to choose when to use it, because insight without boundaries becomes self-erasure, and empathy without selectivity becomes burnout. Next time you sense something under the surface, pause. Instead of analyzing it silently, ask a clean question. You seem quieter than usual. Am I reading that right? Give people the chance to meet you halfway, and occasionally let something pass without decoding it. You don't have to solve every emotional puzzle, because once you stop constantly reading others, you'll notice something unsettling: how rarely you've practiced being read yourself. And that's where real intimacy begins.